Destiny, the philosopher of the streaming sphere, doth take to Twitch, his platform of 800,000 followers, to unleash a torrent of exasperation at Israel's strikes on Damascus.
Palace could destabilize the new Syrian government. The officials said the past 48 hours could seriously undermine progress towards a new security agreement between Israel and Syria as a first step toward normalization. Secretary of State Marco Rubio told reporters Wednesday that the U.S. was very concerned about the Israeli strikes in Syria and wants the fighting to stop. Why is Israel with the new government? Why? In recent days, there have been clashes between a Druze militia and a Bedouin gang in the city of Suwaida in southern Syria. There has been sporadic violence between members of the two minority groups since dictator Bashar al-Assad was toppled in December and replaced by ex-militant Ahmed al-Shara. When the Syrian government sent in tanks to try to restore order, the Israeli Air Force attacked those tanks. The U.S. officials said Syria notified Israel in advance about the tanks and said its response was not directed at Israel, but Israeli officials claim the tank zone that Israel, which is occupying parts of western Syria, has demanded be demilitarized with heavy weapons. Over the last 24 hours, clashes continued in Suwaida between the Druze, the Bedouins, militias affiliated with the Syrian government, and Syrian security forces, according to the Syrian Human Rights Observatory in London. At least 250 people have been killed. They argue that they're defending Druze dudes. Okay, well, Israel has a huge ability to negotiate both diplomatically and militarily. Like, they have threats of this, so I feel like they should be able to figure something out without going right to... Did I misread this? Are they literally bombing Damascus? That's what the headline said.
אני מבקש לעדכן אתכם מה עשינו בסוריה ומה נעשה בסוריה. אנחנו קבענו מדיניות ברורה. פירוז המרחב דרומית לדמשק מהגולן ועד אזור הר הדרוזים. זה קו אחד. הקו השני, שמירה על האחים של האחים שלנו, הדרוזים בהר הדרוזים. שני הדברים האלה הופרו על ידי המשטר בדמשק. הוא שלח צבא דרומית לדמשק לתוך האזור שצריך להיות מפורט.
How far is Damascus from the Golan Heights? It's fairly close, isn't it? Am I making this up? Hold on. 30 miles. Yeah, it's pretty close. How? I don't know why you would agree to demilitarize all of the area to the south of your capital. What is the incentive for the new Syrian government to do this?
והוא התחיל לטבוח בדרוזים. את זה לא יכולנו לקבל בשום צורה. ולכן הנחיתי את צה"ל לפעול ולפעול בעוצמה. חיל האוויר תקף גם את כנופיות הרצח וגם את הרקד, והוספתי יד גם לתקוף בדמשק את משרד הביטחון. תוצאה מהפעילות העצומה.
The Israeli Druze are actively asking the IDF to get involved, and hundreds of Israeli Druze have crossed the border into Syria to help fight and protect Syrian Druze. It's kind of a big deal. Sure, they can go and do that. But if Israeli planes are striking the new Syrian government's military vehicles, like, I don't know why you would. It's just your... I don't know. Wait, let me finish watching this before we watch this.
הזאת השתררה הפסקת אש, והכוחות הסורים נסוגו חזרה לדמשק. זה חשוב, זה הפסקת אש שהושגה מתוך עוצמה. לא מתוך בקשות, לא מתוך תכנונים, מתוך עוצמה. ואנחנו משיגים שלום מתוך עוצמה, שקט מתוך עוצמה, ביטחון מתוך עוצמה, בשבע חזיתות. זו גם תהיה המשך המדיניות שלנו. לא נאפשר לכוחות צבא לרדת דרומית לדמשק, לא נאפשר לפגוע בדרוזים בג'בל דרוז. אני רוצה לשתף אתכם בדבר שריגש אותי מאוד ביומיים האחרונים. פנה אליי השייך מואפק טריף, מנהיג הדרוזים בישראל. הוא אמר לי את הדבר הבא. הוא אמר לי, בזמן השואה, אתם היהודים קראתם לעזרה ואף אחד לא בא. היום תופכים בנו הדרוזים ואנחנו קוראים לעזרה של מדינת ישראל. ואני אמרתי, הוא צודק, ופעלנו ונמשיך לפעול לפי הצורך.
The group Al-Hajiri that Israel's defending is fucking evil and hated by most Jews. They're extremists and violated 3 ceasefires in the last 48 hours. They ambushed and killed 18... Everybody violates ceasefires all the time. The ceasefire stuff is... Ceasefires have always been a meme in this region. And in most places, ceasefires are like kind of memey. But... they're trying to demilitarize Syria next to the Golan. Okay, but the whole point of capturing the Golan Heights was the same as the West Bank, which was the same as the Sinai, which was to create a buffer zone, right? So why would they need another buffer zone? Like, we need to capture this, so we have a buffer zone. It's like, okay, we've got it. It's like, okay, but now our buffer zone is right next to your country. We need a buffer zone for the buffer zone. It's like, okay, we need you to demilitarize Damascus because Damascus is right next to our new buffer zone. Like, what? I don't understand. What? Based.
A city a mere 30 miles from the Golan Heights, where Syrian tanks clashed with Druze militias and Bedouin tribes in a sectarian storm that hath claimed over 1,100 lives, according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, SOHR. The strikes targeting Syria's defense ministry and sites near the presidential palace, as reported by Reuters and Al Jazeera, are Israel's response to Syrian forces entering Suwaida, a Druze stronghold, to quell violence sparked by a merchant's abduction. Destiny, with his trademark blend of logic and liberal ire, rails against the escalation, questioning why Israel, a nation with diplomatic and military might, resorts to bombing rather than negotiation, why a demilitarized zone south of Damascus is demanded when the Golan Heights already serves as a buffer. Let us don the liberal lens, for this is no mere rant but a clarion call against the systemic scourge of geopolitical hubris, a pestilence that doth haunt the Middle East like a specter in a server farm. Destiny's exasperation, delivered with the fervor of a debater and the wit of a stand-up comic, unveils a deeper truth. Israel's strikes, justified as protection for the Druze, are a destabilizing force, threatening the fragile rule of Ahmed al-Shara, Syria's interim president, whose Sunni Islamist roots spark suspicion among minorities. The clashes in Suwaida, as detailed by BBC and CNN, began with a Druze merchant's kidnapping by Bedouin tribes, escalating into a debacle where 79 Druze fighters, 55 civilians, and 189 government forces perished. Israel's intervention, over 160 strikes since July 15, 2025, per Al Jazeera, is a double-edged sword. A gesture of solidarity with the Druze, whose 152,000 kin in Israel and the Golan Heights are loyal to the state, yet a violation of Syrian sovereignty that fuels accusations of treacherous aggression, as Syria's foreign ministry decried. Schumpert, rooted in Chicago's pragmatic progressivism, sees the irony. Israel's bombs, meant to save, may shatter Syria's nascent stability, undermining U.S.-brokered talks for normalization, as noted by Axios. The liberal heart aches for a Middle East where diplomacy trumps destruction, where Druze and Bedouin coexist without tanks or warplanes, a progressive hope for a region weary of war. CBS News reports, alarmed U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who brokered specific steps for de-escalation, including Syrian troop withdrawals from Suwaida, per BBC. Yet Destiny's exasperation, echoed by Schumpert, sees the futility. Ceasefires collapse as Druze leader Hikmat al-Hijri rejects the truce, per CNN, and Israel's demands for demilitarization echo colonial buffer zones, a tactic from the 1967 Golan annexation to the 2024 buffer incursion. The liberal heart demands a Middle East where Druze and Bedouin resolve disputes without foreign bombs, where Syria's new government, despite its jihadist roots, is given a chance to stabilize. This veritable lexical cascade, this torrent of pronouncements, is not merely a statement of intent. It is a profound articulation of power dynamics, a subtle yet unmistakable assertion of hierarchical authority. The phrase, "how you're gonna work for us," delivered with the serene certitude of one who holds the reins of creative and economic dominion, immediately establishes a transactional paradigm. It is not merely an invitation to collaborate. It is a directive, a clear delineation of roles, a subtle reminder that the incoming entity, however talented or charismatic, is entering an established ecosystem with pre-existing power structures. This is the feudalism of the digital age, where the content lord, with a benevolent yet firm hand, dictates the terms of engagement to the newly inducted vassal. The anticipation of how you work with the new caste mark the familiar speaks to the inherent tension between the established order and the impending novelty. It is the cautious curiosity of the incumbent, the subtle apprehension of the familiar, as it braces itself for the incursion of the unknown. The very act of marking the familiar suggests a conscious effort to delineate the boundaries of the pre-existing, to mentally prepare for the inevitable perturbation of the established equilibrium. But it is in the subsequent, and indeed most profound, disquisition on the absurdity of the buffer zone argument that the discourse truly achieves its full satirical and analytical potential. But they're trying to demilitarize Syria next to the Golan. Okay, but the whole point of capturing the Golan Heights was the same as the West Bank, which was the same as the Sinai, which was to create a buffer zone, right? So why would they need another buffer zone? We need to capture this. So we have a buffer zone. It's like, okay, we've got it. There's like, okay, but now our buffer zone is right next to your country. We need a buffer zone for the buffer zone. We need you to demilitarize Damascus. Like what I don't understand. This is not merely a humorous observation. It is a profound philosophical statement on the ineluctable logic of perpetual expansionism. The buffer zone for the buffer zone argument is a veritable reductio ad absurdum, a logical contortion that exposes the inherent illogic of a security paradigm predicated on endless territorial acquisition. It highlights the profound, almost pathological inability to achieve a genuine sense of security through military means, leading instead to a perpetual cycle of territorial demands and escalating tension. It is the ultimate expression of the Sisyphean struggle against the relentless currents of geopolitical reality, a futile endeavor doomed to perpetual and increasingly pathetic repetition. The exasperated like what I don't understand is a poignant expression of intellectual fatigue, a lament for the bewildering contradictions that permeate this intractable conflict, a profound cry of despair in the face of an unyielding, almost nihilistic pursuit of an ever-elusive security. The lamentable truth, therefore, is that the exchange concerning Israel's bombing in Syria is not merely a fleeting moment of digital hilarity. It is a microcosm of a macro problem, a symptom of a deeper, more pervasive malaise that afflicts the very sinews of our collective understanding of conflict, sovereignty, and the pursuit of peace in the digital age. It is a stark reminder that in the grand, often bewildering tapestry of public discourse, the threads of influence and understanding are not always inextricably interwoven. Indeed, they often exist in a state of profound, almost cosmic disjunction, with the former soaring to dizzying heights, while the latter languishes in the murky depths of profound incomprehension. And in this disjunction, in this bewildering asymmetry between reach and rigor, lies a profound peril for the very future of our informed, self-governing society. The laughter, therefore, that might initially accompany such an exchange quickly morphs into a more somber, more reflective, and ultimately more deeply unsettling contemplation of the precarious intellectual foundations upon which our modern world precariously perches. The joke, it seems, is ultimately on all of us,